pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, I would like to have a moment of silence honoring the life and service of Officer Jamal Mitchell of Minneapolis, who lost his life in the line of duty. Thank you. Our sincere condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues of Officer Mitchell and to the entire Minneapolis community. We know this loss reverberates throughout the entire law enforcement community and grieve with you at yet another tragic loss in the line of duty. As Governor Walz said, this cannot become the norm. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the open forum. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak, you can fill out a form or come up to the microphone over there. If you're watching from home, you can call into open forum by dialing 1-415-655-0001 and use webinar access code 2635-863-9398, and the password is 1234. Administrative Assistant Wynn, is there anyone on the line? Okay, and no emails were received, and it doesn't look like anyone here would like to speak, so we'll move on from the open forum. Next, we're going to move on to the minutes, and before we actually move the minutes, I wanted to read a statement. So, before making a motion to approve the minutes, I want to further clarify one of the agenda items passed at our last meeting. The Council passed a construction agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation to construct a noise wall along Highway 62. The resolution and agenda description correctly described the project beginning at Xerxes Avenue, but was less precise about the ending point, which falls between Russell and Penn Avenues. The agreement we approved provides the specific terminus of 0.08 of miles west of Penn Avenue South, and we wanted to note that clarification in public. So with that, is there anyone who would like to move the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there anything that anyone wishes to add or correct or delete? All right, hearing no changes, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, we've passed the minutes for the City Council meeting of May 28th, 2024. Next, we'll move on to approving the agenda.
I'd move to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, we have approved the agenda. At this point in our agenda, we are to the proclamation of the City of Richfield for celebrating Juneteenth. So I would like to invite Dr. Joyce Marie to join me over at the microphone. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are, and henceforward, shall be free. And whereas this freedom was deferred for many Black Americans as slaveholders seeking to maintain their wealth and power kept word of this proclamation from their newly freed slaves, even going so far as to forcefully relocate over 150,000 enslaved Black persons into Texas. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, Union troops marched to Galveston, Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation and free the last enslaved Black Americans in Texas, over 2 years after they were declared legally free. And whereas on that day, June 19, 1865, over 250,000 Black Americans embraced freedom by executive decree in what became known as Juneteenth or Freedom Day. And whereas Juneteenth marks our country's second Independence Day, celebrating freedom and justice and emphasizing the achievements of Black Americans after gaining their freedom. And whereas the generations to follow saw continued oppression of these now free people, barring countless Black Americans from enjoying the same privileges and successes as their white counterparts. And whereas the City of Richfield is committed to doing the work required to deconstruct systemic racism and secure an equitable future for all citizens. Now, therefore, I, Mary Supple, Mayor of Richfield, on behalf of the Richfield City Council, do acknowledge the relevance of June 19, 1865, and celebrate every June 19th as Juneteenth Freedom Day in the City of Richfield, and call on the people of Richfield to observe this day with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies, and continue to honor the contributions of African Americans throughout the year. Proclaim this 11th day of June, 2024.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm so honored and privileged to receive this proclamation. What I wanted to say is that this has been a great undertaking as far as America. This is the third year that the proclamation, the federal holiday, came forth in June 17, 2021. We truly know, when I think about Maya Angelou's poem, The Caged Bird, I think about we truly know why the caged bird sings. And I want to thank you because I know at that time in 1865 when those African enslaved people were free, I know they danced and they wept and they cried, but they walked away with freedom and knowing that a new beginning has started. So I want to thank the City of Richfield, and the governmental officials for awarding this proclamation of the City of Richfield. And also, I want to say that if one is chained, then none of us are free. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce Marie. Next, we're going to do the presentation of the Food Safety Awards, and I'm going to turn it over to Health Administrator Jennifer Anderson. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Beginning in 2006, the Richfield Advisory Board of Health started recognizing food establishments for their excellence in food safety and service practices. These annual awards highlight the good work that our restaurants do, committing to a level of service and food safety for all patrons. The Food Safety Awards are the culmination of inspections and interviews by Food Collaborative members of Bloomington and Richfield, environmental health sanitarians, and food establishment staff. Nominees are judged on risk factor management, policies and procedures in place, training protocol, and overall physical appearance of the establishment. Award categories are full service restaurant and fast food pizza carryout. The results of those inspections and interviews are provided to the Advisory Board of Health and culminate in tonight's award presentation. So this evening, the 2023 Full Service Restaurant Award goes to Broadway Pizza, and we have John and Nina here to receive their plaque. Thank you. And the 2023 Fast Food Pizza Carryout Award goes to Taco Bell. And we have Sandy and Alfredo here tonight to receive this award. I want to thank each of the establishments for their commitment to food safety, the members of the inspection team, and the council for their support of this annual award. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe then you'll be taking pictures out in the lobby? All right, thank you. The consent calendar is our next item on the agenda, and I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Rodriguez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further council action on these items is necessary. On tonight's consent calendar, item A, consider approval of a temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license for an event scheduled to take place July 6, 2024 at Fred Babcock, VFW, number 5555, located at 6715 Lakeshore Drive. Item B, consider the approval of a resolution for reimbursement of certain expenditures from the proceeds of street reconstruction bonds and utility bonds to be issued by the city for the Nicollet Avenue reconstruction project. Item C, consider adoption of a resolution modifying healthcare savings plan for International Association of Firefighters, IAF, Local 1215 bargaining unit employees. And I submit these items for your consideration as part of the consent calendar.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The consent calendar has passed. Next, we'll move on to item 6, and I'll turn that over to Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is to consider the approval of a second reading of an ordinance amending section 925.02 relating to the regulation of vacant buildings. In October 2023, the City Council approved an ordinance relating to managed natural landscapes and a new maintenance standard of grass height from 6 to 8 inches per state law. The City Code Section 925.02 refers to the maintenance of vacant property and grass height no taller than 6 inches. This section should have been amended, but was overlooked when the ordinance was amended. So that's the context, and I would move we approve a second reading of the ordinance amending the section 225.02 of the Richfield City Code relating to the regulation of vacant buildings and required maintenance of grass and weed on vacant properties, as well as a resolution and summary publication of this ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I just wanted to say briefly, I appreciate city staff jumping on this right away. So thank you for being so prompt.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've passed this motion. Next, we'll move on to item number 7. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Yes, this item is to consider a resolution amending the approved plan unit development and final development plan and authorizing execution of the proposed amendment to the parking agreement with Partnership Academy at 6500 Nicollet Avenue. Partnership Academy, the applicant, preschool through 8th grade charter school, was granted land use approvals in 2018 to develop a school building at 6500 Nicollet Avenue. The project did not meet the city's parking requirements, and therefore the approval included a condition that the applicant either construct or secure on adjacent property the zoning code required amount of parking. A license agreement, noted in parentheses, which is not a permanent solution, with the neighboring property owner, Brixmore, was obtained. In 2022, the city approved an expansion on the north side of the building, which both decreased the available parking on site and increased the need for parking under the zoning code. Staff did not make a recommendation at the time, as the parking issue was considered more of a risk tolerance decision rather than a technical issue. The council approved the request with the condition that the applicant execute a parking agreement detailing the terms for finding a permanent parking solution within 2 years of the approval, so by April 12th, 2024. The parking agreement included a penalty of $50,000 per year, due annually upon default until compliance is achieved. 2 years have passed, and the applicant is requesting additional time, which requires an amendment to the parking agreement. The applicant is asking for a 1-year extension to April 12th, 2025, and has provided a copy of their extended parking license with Brixmor that ends July 31st of 2025. They are also requesting the ability to extend the parking agreement with the city annually for the next 10 years with administrative approval only, subject to a proof of a continued license agreement with Brixmor. Finally, they are requesting that the $50,000 penalty for noncompliance be waived. While there is no evidence that the Hub Shopping Center will redevelop anytime soon, the current license agreement, which can be canceled with only 15 days' notice by the Hub's owner, is not a long-term solution. Extending the parking agreement extends the risk that the site may not have adequate on-site parking for either present or future uses. The city and the applicant could be left with a large building with inadequate parking, affecting future sale or use of the property and/or impacting nearby neighborhoods. Staff, again, is not making a recommendation and has drafted a resolution for the council's consideration based on the Planning Commission's recommendation. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on May 29th. The commission expressed that demolishing the neighboring Richfield Medical Center, as discussed by the applicant, to build surface parking does not align with the goals of the city. The Planning Commission voted 6-1 to recommend approval of a 1-year time extension without penalty and 4 annual options for administratively approved extensions, potentially postponing a permanent solution until April 12th, 2029. I will make the motion and then we can discuss. I will move that we approve the attached resolution amending the approved plan unit development and final development plan and authorizing execution of the proposed amendment to the parking agreement at 6500 Nicollet Avenue.
I'll second.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Are there any questions for staff? Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really pleased to support this motion. I did have a question with regards to any penalties. I like the idea of not holding a, devastating penalty over a school's head, but I did wonder if there was any tool that we were retaining. Do we have any? If we needed to enforce the agreement, is there any remedy that the city has?
Councilmember Troutman, members of the council. The penalty remains in the agreement. The Planning Commission waived it for 2024. So if we were to waive it going forward, there would have to be action by the council. So it is still in place.
Great.
I have an amendment that deals with that later, but I figured there should be other discussion first if anybody else wants to discuss anything.
We've got a couple
Okay,
questions.
go ahead, Councilmember.
So one, and I haven't watched the Planning Commission discussion on this yet, but I appreciate the recommendation. I was just curious, it was deliberate that they recommended 5 years rather than the 10 requested by the applicant?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I guess I am wondering the procedure of annually renewing it, what does staff consider in the administrative approvals versus us just saying they're good until 2029?
Sure. I don't have the agreement in front of me, but the idea here is that they would need to come in each year and tell us progress that they're making, and then the extension could be granted by the Community Development Director, by me. If they weren't making that progress, we could bring them back to you, and they would need to discuss further extensions with the Planning Commission and Council.
Okay.
Okay, are there other questions? I would like to make an amendment to this because it said in the staff report that we were waiving the penalties, but it wasn't clear to me in reading the resolution. So I would like to make the following amendment on the resolution. It says, be it further resolved, and then there are 2 items. I would like to add item number 3. The penalty for noncompliance by April 12th, 2024 shall be waived. And my thoughts is that would clarify the issue so there wouldn't be any question. Is there a second?
I would second.
Okay, so I think the procedure right now is to discuss only the amendment. So are people okay with that amendment?
I guess so in financial impact section of the staff report, staff recommends that it be prorated for a 2-month delinquency period. What are your thoughts on that versus just waiving it?
So from what I understand, because I asked that question, there were some planning commission members here earlier, and they said that the reason it was a 6-1 vote is one planning commission member thought it should not be waived, and the other 6 thought it should be waived. And so that's when I went to look to see where it was in the agreement, and I couldn't figure out if what was happening. So I talked to Director Palman, and she explained what the intent was, so I thought maybe it would be easier to clarify it in case others were interested. So, I mean, we can amend it any way you want, so.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I don't want our penalties to mean nothing, but obviously I'm not really in favor of holding the feet to the fire about parking in general. But I guess I don't want us to, I feel like, why do we pick that number of 50,000 if we weren't going to hold them to it at all? But I'm also seeing that they're actively, they were reaching out to staff at least in February of this year. And it does seem, I mean, Director Palman, would you feel that it's fair that they were working with staff prior to the deadline passing at least?
Members of the council, yes, they did reach out prior to the deadline.
Yeah. So I guess if your motion were to do it with the 2-month penalty, I'd be okay with that, but your motion is to waive it, and I'm also okay with that, so I would support this amendment.
All right, is there any other discussion? Okay, we're voting only on the amendment that adds an item 3, the penalty for noncompliance by April 12th, 2024 shall be waived. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so now we have amended the main motion, and we're back to discussing the main motion. I had one question that, you know, it says that this can be like only 15 days notice, and then if we had to invoke and say, hey, you got to build a structured parking garage, and I was wondering in general about how long would that take where we would have the cars out on the street and those types of things?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, that's a great question. It, would depend on a lot of things, but in order to build a parking ramp, if this agreement was canceled, the applicant would need to come through land use approvals. Those would require both Planning Commission and City Council approval. So there's probably about 3 months there. There's also permitting. My best guess is it's probably close to 18 months. For construction of a structured parking ramp in this vicinity.
All right, other comments, questions? Councilmember Troutman?
Would we also be able to waive any fees during that delinquency but good faith process? Like if they were moving in the direction that the law required, I'd feel uncomfortable having them moving in the direction and then also charging them tens of thousands of dollars while they're trying to finance infrastructure building. So just want to make sure we have an enforcement tool, but also the goal, I don't think, is to be punitive also.
Councilmember Troutman, the goal of the agreement is to make sure that they are making progress and acknowledging the fact that there is a shortage of parking for their use. If they were to apply for land use approvals as a part of that process, we would also look at this parking agreement that is in place and likely amend it or specifically waive fees while they were working on it. So yes, if they were working toward that, there absolutely is a mechanism to make sure we wouldn't charge them that fee on top of that work.
All right, other comments or questions? Councilmember Hafer-O'Leary?
I will just say I'll be voting in support of this as amended. I just want to note, I appreciate the Planning Commission specifically noting that the solution of demolishing an existing commercial building to be used as non-tax-paying surface parking is just such a good point, and I'm really glad that they emphasize that because it's a good example where, although the zoning code exists for good reasons, and we have parking standards for good reasons, the result of that is also a worse outcome for the community than having extra cars on the street. So I appreciate them naming that specifically. I hope the applicant, in the long-term future, as they continue to work for this, finds a positive solution to parking that does not involve that. But again, I'm glad to support it, and I think it's reasonable.
All right, any other comments or questions? I guess I'll be voting in favor, but I am concerned because I know that it's not going to be ideal if suddenly they have to have students and teachers carrying their books 4 or 5 blocks to get to school. So I'm hoping that this all gets resolved in a manner that works for everyone. But I also understand not wanting to take on that kind of a debt load when currently they can just rent parking from their neighboring area. So it's kind of one of those catch-22 situations, but I will be supporting this. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? All right, then we will vote on the motion as amended. All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we have approved the motion as amended. Next, we will move on to the city manager's report. City Manager Rodriguez.
Nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Claims and payroll.
I'd move claims and payroll.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve claims and payroll. Are there any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have approved claims and payroll. Hats off to Hometown Hits. Councilmember Whalen.
Nothing tonight other than just thanking everyone who had a role in the State of the City event right before this. I'm maybe stealing the mayor's thunder on that, but it was a lovely event and was great to have everyone here, both from various city departments and community groups.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Christensen.
Yes, I'd like to give a hats off to the Richfield's Arts Commission. As a liaison to that commission, I've been involved with many different types of projects that I probably would have never thought of being involved in. While their focus is mainly for youth and, into the city, they also direct it towards adults also. And in fact, this Saturday we will be doing a seed bomb event at the Richfield Farmers Market. So.
Can you tell us what a seed bomb is?
I never knew what it was either, but what it is, you take part potting soil, part dirt, and you basically get it wet and form it into a ball, and then drop seeds in it and cover it all up, and then you plant them kind of wherever. You can either throw them or plant them somewhere in your yard, whatever. And they specifically do wildflowers, so native to Minnesota, prairie flowers. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I just want to give my hats off to the progress on our 25 miles per hour, which will kick in the day of our next council meeting. But I specifically wanted to say, when we were first having a work session about this, I brought a 20 is plenty sign from Minneapolis that a resident had stolen from Minneapolis along with a bunch of others and given to her neighbors. But you don't need to steal from Minneapolis anymore, because now we have our own, which are accurate to Richfield. And I'm just really excited about how these came out. So thank you to Public Works and the consultant and everybody working on that.
Thank you. Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. It was just an incredible event this afternoon for all our city staff and all our community leaders from just a huge number of organizations. It was an incredible event to see hundreds of people here. It was a great day. Our mayor gave great remarks, but it's a great day for community. And I also just wanted to take my hats off to our Public Works team who have our pool up and running, and my family was so excited, and my boys were thrilled to be able to access the public pool. So just a reminder, it's out there, it's amazing, and you can get your summer pass.
Thank you. So I would like to give hats off to our police department that is helping out in Minneapolis today in the 3rd precinct to cover during the memorial service. So thank you for doing that. I also want to give a hats off to all the graduates. It's been fun seeing all of everyone celebrating in all the different schools around here. And so congratulations to all the graduates for a successful year. And you are correct. I do want to say thank you to everyone for the state of the community. It was so fun to see everyone out there. Thank you to everyone who worked to make it possible. And I hope this becomes an annual event. It was just fun to get everybody together and celebrate Richfield. So thank you all. We will next be moving into the closed session regarding the city manager's annual performance evaluation. Council will move to the Babcock room for closed session portion of the meeting. So I am going to turn it over to Councilmember Christensen to ask for a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion that I move that the council convene to a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statutes, section 13D.05, subdivision 3, for the city manager's annual performance evaluation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of moving into closed session in the Babcock room, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we will move to the Babcock room and come back after the session has closed. Thank you. The council just conducted a closed session for a performance evaluation of the city manager. The council will be holding another closed performance evaluation meeting on June 18th, and as required by law, the council will provide a summary of the performance evaluation at its next regular meeting on June 25th, 2024. A motion is in order to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We stand adjourned.